Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Alison.
And my name is Fonda.
And today, Fonda is going to be talking about...
Arlinn Kord.
Yes.
Yes. So if you don't know what Magic the Gathering is, and you want more than just general basic terms, I suggest you go listen to one of our other episodes. It's a bonus episode. It's called Magic the Gathering, and I'm talking about the world lore of it.
Yeah.
If you want to know a lot about the world. If you don't care, keep on listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go over, again, just some general information on Magic the Gathering, Alison. Just some quick terms to help refresh your memory and for our listeners, because these will be the ones that kind of come up the most.
Yeah.
The first terminology and concept you should be aware of is plane. Basically, a plane is a world. Think of each plane as a planet, though not necessarily round, and are more on different dimensions than separated by space or in other solar systems. Most denizens of the multiverse are not aware of the existence of other planes. Mm-hmm. A planeswalker is someone with the innate ability to travel between the planes. So planeswalkers are the main focal point of the story for Magic the Gathering, and they are said to be 1 in a million. The ability to planeswalk is referred to as the planeswalker's quote-unquote spark, which is normally activated or ignited through intense trauma.
Yay!
Yay! With only a few rare exceptions, some people can get a spark through like a really happy experience, but it's quite rare. Only living beings of biological origin have a spark. Constructs, undead, angels, or demons can't really get sparks, so if they happen to be any of those, sadly, they can't be a planeswalker.
Okay.
Which is probably for the better, because I don't think I want a demon.
Probably not.
Just
popping in and out.
Fucking thing.
All over the place.
Like it would be bad.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little. Mana is a renewable resource in Magic the Gathering. It's generated by cards in the game. Most notably, they're called land, and they're used to play most of the game's cards and abilities. And there's 5 different colors: black, red, blue, green, and white.
Okay, and Arlinn is
mainly green. Though
green. Okay.
Her first card is green and red, but she has 2 cards, and the second card has green. So I'm going to say her like main mana use is green.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. And then if I'm talking about a set in Magic the Gathering is a pool of cards that are released together and designed for a similar play environment, while as a block is a group of expansion sets that share a similar mechanic or flavor. For example, sometimes if they're wanting to talk about... There was a block about, like, Egyptian gods and, like, an Egyptian plane. Mm-hmm. So there were sets that came out that all had that same thing to fill that block.
Nice.
Yeah, and normally blocks tell a huge part in a story. So if anyone's wanting to know what the next chapter, so to speak, in Magic the Gathering is... It's best to kind of like wait for that block to be done, so then you can kind of like see what all happened. Mm-hmm. So in this episode, as we said earlier, I'm going to be talking about one planeswalker specifically who has only visited 2 planes, and I'm going to be talking more about her and those planes in as much detail as I can.
Cool.
And again, if you want to learn more about the world of Magic the Gathering, I suggest listening to the episode titled Magic the Gathering World Overview to get a larger picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, basic information on Arlinn. As Alison asked, and I said, she's primarily green aligned, but her secondary mana alignment is red.
Okay.
She was introduced in October 2016 for what is called the Eldritch Moon set.
Ooh.
Yes.
Fancy.
She has 2 cards as of right now. Arlinn Kord, And it's a double-sided card, so the first side is called Arlinn Kord, the other side is called Arlinn Embraced by the Moon.
Ooh.
And her second card is Arlinn Voice of the Pack.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, can you guess what she might be flavored for, Alison, just based off of the set name and her cards?
So, I imagine from the other episode, you said green has flavor of, like, animals and, like, earth magic and that kind of stuff. And so...
Yeah, like there's elves and shit.
I imagine she's kind of wolf-themed?
Yeah. Yeah, she is. So she is a young / like new in planeswalker standards, because again, her first card came out in 2016, so she's like a baby planeswalker. As she has also only officially visited 2 planes. The first plane is Innistrad, which is her home.
Okay.
And Ravnica.
Okay.
In Magic the Gathering, mainly like a lot of the more popular planeswalkers have at least visited 6 other planes.
Oh, shit. Okay, so she is very inexperienced in regards to planes visited.
Yes, she's still a baby. She's got those training wheels on.
Okay.
And she's learning. So a lot of other planeswalkers have at least 6. Some have more than 10. It kind of depends on the story and how Magic the Gathering is going to use them. I kind of hope she's in more sets because I love her a lot. She's super cool and badass.
Yeah.
And I want more of her story, and the only way I'm going to get more of her story is for her to be in more blacks.
Yes.
Compared to other planeswalkers like Liliana Vess, Nissa Ravane, I hope I'm saying the last name for that planeswalker right. I don't actually know. Or Jace Bellarine. Jace is a really popular blue mana alignment planeswalker. She doesn't have much of a history within the world or the story of Magic the Gathering. So I'm going to do my best to talk about like official content.
Cool.
That being said, she does have official biography on Magic the Gathering's website.
Okay.
Which I'm going to read to you now.
Yes.
Arlinn Kord is a tormented werewolf.
Ooh.
Originally from Avabrook, who has a gift unique among her kind. She is a planeswalker. Arlinn was a teenager when the howls of the Mundronan werewolf pack summoned her into the forest, and she completed her first hunt.
Ooh.
She always fought against the change and used Avacinian charms, prayers, and fasting to ward it off as much as possible. She even studied magic in the church, becoming an archmage of Gold Knight, while successfully hiding her curse from her teachers and mentors. Until the night came when she couldn't contain the change any longer, and she killed several hierarchs before her spark ignited, and she found herself rampaging through the woods of another plane.
Oh, no.
I know! I know! To her horror, she regained her senses in the morning, but not her human form. For better or for worse, the experience of retaining her human mind in wolf form gave her a new appreciation for the wild spirit that shared her body. The only way she could return to her human form was to planeswalk back to Innistrad.
Oh.
But now she finds that she can control the transformation in both directions with relative ease. And though she is still horrified by the slaughter she wrought within the church, she is embracing the power she wields in wolf form as a natural complement to her magic.
Cool. So when she planeswalks, she can choose to end up as a wolf or a human on the other side? Is that kind of what it's getting at?
That's what the story explained, but for a card mechanic, if you pay a certain amount of mana for an ability, you can transform her into a werewolf.
Cool.
So, like, before it wasn't something she could control, but because she got the spark, and because when she planeswalked, she was a wolf, it kind of allowed her to be very fluid in her transformation.
Okay, so is that why the card is double-sided? So you would flip it over when she's a wolf?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's a super badass card. She's such a babe.
That's
I love
awesome.
her. The biography goes on to say that, above all else, Arlinn is desperate to ensure the survival of her kind. She has come to think of herself as a part of the pack. And in a world where Alison either curse-muted or killed hundreds of werewolves, and where the Angels' Church is launching a new inquisition more terrifying than anything they've done before, Arlinn fears that if she does not act, the lycanthropes of Innistrad could meet a very real and permanent end very soon.
Oh no!
I know!
They just wolfing around? You leave them be.
I know, like, for the most part, as she said, like, the people that are werewolves can't control their transformation.
Yeah.
Makes sense for a lot of, like, werewolf lore and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can, and I understand. And she's probably, like, the only person so far in the story that's also, like, I know what it's like to have my mind intact as a werewolf, and it's not a ravaging thing.
Yeah.
Like, it is because, you know, you're more bestial.
Yeah.
But if more of the werewolves had a chance to keep their human mind intact, they would probably be, like, I'm guessing, a race that isn't as, like, feral as people assume they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, cool. She's badass. I really love her.
She sounds cool. I love like lady werewolf stories and stuff. There's so many dude werewolves that it's nice to see a girl werewolf.
Right? So just some information. Avabruck is a place that is located in the province of Kessig, in a plane known as Innistrad, which is her home plane. Mm-hmm. The plane is described as follows on the official Magic the Gathering website. When the light fades and the moon rises over Innistrad, humanity becomes universal prey. Packs of werewolves are drawn out by the moon, their humanity washed away by animal rage. Vampire families bare their fangs at the scent of human blood. Hordes of walking dead lurch across the manors and moors, driven by an innate hunger for the living. Alchemically created abominations twitch to life in alchemist laboratories, and geists haunt the huddled human towns and terrify travelers along the dark crossways in between. From Innistrad steps, powerful demons and impish devils plot for humanity's demise.
Ooh.
The humans of Innistrad have done their best to fight back. They form torch-wielding mobs to cleanse the abominations with fire, and they train specialized holy warriors called Cathars to strike back against the supernatural horrors. Most of all, they brandish the power of the Church of Avacyn. The church is named for its leader, the powerful Archangel Avacyn, who was created by the planeswalker Sorin Markov to safeguard humanity and allow them to coexist with their predators.
Cool. It sounds like very, like, gothic horror, which I love. I love that kind of genre.
Oh, 100% it is, for sure. I think it's the plane that a lot of people enjoy. I'm not going to say the most, but, like, it comes out with some really cool artwork.
Yeah.
Because of the, like, gothic horror vibes.
Yeah. We just watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh.
This horror movie that tried to do way too much. But Robert De Niro was the Frankenstein's monster,
Really?
and he was amazing. And, like, the movie wasn't great. I think they tried to fit in too much, but the style of that movie, it was like 1800s, fancy dresses, large castles, and, like, small towns where people were sick. Then you have this awesome, like, Robert De Niro running around in a trench coat looking all messed up with all the scars and stuff. It had some very incredible style, and it's one of my favorite styles. So Innistrad sounds awesome.
It is. The next plane that she goes to, again, she's only been to 2, so it makes it easy for me to kind of talk about them, is Ravnica, which is, again, a very popular plane. Ravnica is described as follows. It's a vast, worldwide cityscape, and it's a patchwork of grand halls, decrepit slums, and ancient ruins, with layer upon layer of stonework and guild manaverings. Of the world's countless civic centers, one looms large above all others, the city of Ravnica, a metropolis so vast that its name has long since become synonymous with the entire plane. It is here, amid the mazes of streets and towering Gothic spires, that Ravnica's guilds vie for power. Each of the 10 guilds has mastered 2 of the 5 colors of mana, resulting in dramatically different cultural identities and functions. So, overall, I would say this one again, I can see why Arlinn kind of planeswalked there.
Yeah.
Because, again, it said it's very, like, Gothic.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I'm like, okay, she planeswalked somewhere that was similar mentally, that it probably wouldn't, like, scare her immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I imagine if she had, in a werewolf form, planeswalked to, like, a demon hell dimension, probably would freak her the fuck out.
Yeah, little off-putting.
Yeah, more than when she suddenly popped up in a forest within Ravnica's plane. Like, at least a forest, even if there's different creatures she doesn't recognize. I'm gathering, because it's a multiverse, chances are there's gonna be similarities within any plane.
Yeah.
That she would probably felt more comfortable connecting with her werewolf form and spirit before she was able to planeswalk home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Something I found out while doing research for Arlinn is that she is a character featured in one of the Magic the Gathering novels.
Oh.
Called War of the Spark Ravnica. Makes sense. I sadly, I had no idea Magic the Gathering had novels until I was doing research for the card game in this episode. So sadly, I wasn't able to snag a copy and read it in time for this episode to possibly give more information. But it kind of makes me excited knowing that she has had an opportunity to be featured in official books.
Yeah, and now you have, like, a bunch of other content and stuff that you can go seek out and find more.
Yeah, and it makes me hope that she'll have more cards within the game. So hopefully she can have more of a bigger role to play. I don't want her to become super, super popular. I know that's weird to say, but part of me kind of, like, wants her to stay as, like, a niche planeswalker who's like, nah, bitch, I'm protecting these planes because of my people.
Yeah.
I'll come if there's, like, a world-ending situation. Yeah, I'll be there. But I like the idea of specific planeswalkers that are like, nah, I'm like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man of, like, a couple planes.
It's like, I'm just gonna stay over here and handle this shit. You handle that shit, and we'll just all handle our shit.
Yeah, and it's like, and if you really need me, okay, maybe I'll pop over.
Yeah.
But I want to get this stuff situated.
Yeah, Arlinn's good out here.
She... It's like Magnus from the Adventure Zone.
Taco.
Not Magnus,
like,
Taco
like
from
Taco
the Adventure Zone. Taco's good out here. Oh, that's good.
For anybody who gets that reference.
That's good.
And for everybody who doesn't, man.
It's okay. It's fine. I wish I had more backstory information to say about Arlinn, and I don't really want to talk about, like, everything about her card, because that would just be me talking about mechanics.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest, why I really liked Arlinn at first was because of the art for the card.
Yeah.
It made her look like a badass.
Yeah.
She was... Here, Alison, I'll quickly Google it and share it within our Skype.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, like, doesn't she look badass?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, she's got a bunch of, like, furs and stuff. It kind of looks like she has, like, scars on her face.
Yes.
She looks super badass, and she's in this, like, haunted, creepy wood.
Mm-hmm. And I like the lighting that it did for her, both double-sided of the cards.
Yeah.
I like for the werewolf form, she kept part of her attire around her neck, which kind of makes her look more important, if that makes sense, and just like...
Yeah, kind of almost like it reminds me of, like, Egyptian pharaoh, like, neck bands.
Yeah.
With, like, that kind of, like, the large, thick, like, circle around the neck.
Yeah, and, like, her attire kind of reminds me of nomadic furs, even though part of her skin is showing, like not all of it, she has like bare feet in the full artwork. It kind of makes me think of like colder climate attire.
Yeah.
Nordic in some ways.
Yeah. The voice of the pack card is really cool looking too.
Oh yeah,
all,
with
like,
all the wolves in the back
behind her.
I don't know her age, but I'm not gonna lie, and this could be weird, but the first thing I thought, I was like, oh, she's a MILF. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she has kids, but she's like, I think she's like leader of a pack, so all the wolves are like her pack children.
Yeah, she's
and I
like
just
a dog
looked at
mom.
her, right? And I was just like, oh, she's such a babe, a badass woman, kicking shit, taking names, ready to fuck you up.
Yeah.
So, like, initially, I'm not gonna lie, it was the art that, like, won me over for her.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, that's why I am still obsessed with Phasma. Her character design just got, like, I just get it. It's like, it gets me, I get it, and
You're like, that's all I need.
I love it.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Other reasons I like Arlinn is based off of her biography. I really like that at first, like, I don't necessarily like how they're like, she's a tormented werewolf, and I'm like, oh no, my girl. But I really liked how it talked about how, like, as a teenager,
Yeah.
she wanted to try and be in control of her own life.
Yeah.
She learned magic with a bunch of hierarchs and archmages of the Gold Knights, and she decided to, like, learn how to use charms and prayers, and she did fasting.
Yeah.
As a werewolf and just a human, that can be really hard to fast.
Yeah.
So, like, as a teenager, I can only imagine how much mental willpower.
Yeah, how much discipline that would take.
Yeah, and then obviously, again, to her horror, you know, she did as much as she could, but one night she just couldn't. She like, as much as I think it'd be great to say her willpower is so strong that she could always hold it back, like, everyone has a weak point in her life.
Yeah.
And maybe she just let her guard down, who knows, but then the change happened and she killed so many people. And, like,
Yeah.
again, it didn't necessarily state when that happened, because she started when she was a teenager, so I imagine maybe it was when she started to become a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, maybe in her 20s or something. Shit just happened.
Yeah.
And she had a traumatic experience of killing a bunch of people and went on a rampage in the woods. And who knows how long it took her until she, like, regained her senses.
Yeah, was able to, like, take back control of herself.
Yeah, because it says, like, she went on a rampage through the woods of another plane, and it wasn't until, like, a morning she regained her senses. So, like, I can only imagine that must have been traumatic, looking down at yourself, and she's probably covered in blood. She's in her werewolf form, but she's mentally a human, and she's, like, I can't imagine, like, at least for most werewolves, you're like, well, I don't remember maybe what I'm doing when I'm a werewolf.
Yeah.
Right? But now she can remember.
Yeah.
And she's in the body, and it's just, I don't know, I really admire how strong she started, and then even though she had this traumatic experience, she decided to find a new appreciation for the wild spirit in her body, and she learned how to control it and, like, fluidly shift within both forms. And then she's just like, yeah, I'm gonna protect my people. Like, she hated, it seems like, being a werewolf because she didn't want to transform, and then she's decided that she, like, took new ownership over it and, like, controlled it instead of having it control her. And there's something really strong and admirable in that for me.
Yeah, and I mean, it can act as a metaphor for a lot of people who, like, if you're going through large changes in your life or anything like that, or if you feel like there's a part of you that you can't control, or that you're maybe not happy about, or that you wish you could change, but it might be something that you can't change. And so you have to learn to either cope with it or somehow learn to accept it in yourself. Otherwise, you keep losing control almost. You know, it's like you're a werewolf no matter what.
Yeah.
And either you can accept it and learn to deal with it, or you're just gonna hate that part of your life, and like what's the point in going through life hating a part of yourself?
And like I think that's something anyone can relate to. Like at some point everyone has felt either self-conscious or that they hated something about themselves. And either you have vices where it's not the best way to cope, but at the time you think it is, or you find a way that's really helpful for you mentally and physically, and you learn, like you said, to either deal with it, or you learn how to, like, see it in a new light, and maybe you don't love it, but at least you could understand it.
Exactly.
And I think that's just why I like werewolves in general.
They're very fun. They're such a fun, like, character type to play with. Because it can be so metaphorical for so many different things that people go through in their life. Like,
oh, for sure.
Like massive change, all these sorts of things, like emotional turmoil. It's just generally a great metaphor. And there's been some really fun, like, versions of werewolves. There's obviously classic ones that they do in things like True Blood and Buffy. They have werewolves in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but then you get different versions like Twilight, which I like the theory of Twilight, that it's like this is a part of their culture, this is a part of their people, like they do control it, and they're more like a shifter rather than a werewolf, because it's not necessarily that, but
and they become more wolf instead of like humanoid wolf.
There's some missteps. I'm not gonna stand here completely defending Twilight. There's definitely some missteps, but like there's so many different ways to play with that kind of lore and that kind of stuff that it's fun seeing the way different people interpret it.
Yeah, it gets used in a lot of interesting ways. On that quick note, Alison, would you rather be a werewolf or a vampire then?
Oh, that's always the tough one. Is it because like it's so much?
Because it depends on what type of lore. You know what I mean? Like, are you in the world of Twilight where you're a sparkly vampire and you could be a werewolf that turns into a full wolf, or are you in like?
Yeah, it so much depends on the type of vampire. Like at least like werewolves are pretty like steady on the path kind of thing, but like
Teen Wolf, they got
like there's so many different versions of vampire.
Oh yeah,
especially now that I'm starting to watch older vampire movies and stuff like that too. Like for the first time I watched Blackula, this movie from the 70s that stars William Marshall as an 18th century African prince that gets turned into a vampire, and then he gets woken up again like hundreds of years later and has to be like among modern people. And it's a really like weirdly good horror movie, but I love the vampires in that one. Like they were so well portrayed. And then of course there's like weird super horny vampires in Twilight, or not in Twilight, in True Blood.
Yeah,
where they have the little fangs that like pop out. Yeah. And you can tell all the actors hate trying to talk in the fangs and nobody quite gets it right.
No.
But I think that as far as like metaphorically speaking, I prefer vampires, because vampires have kind of throughout history been this weird sort of metaphor for power and fluidity and freedom, like bisexual and all about like
they've lived for ages,
and, like you live forever and you get all these fancy castles, and like I think I just like the lore of the vampires better because it is so different. But yeah, probably a vampire.
See, I had this conversation with my husband actually, because we were watching what's that really popular vampire werewolf movie series,
Underworld.
Yeah, Underworld.
Yes.
So we were watching, I think it was like a prequel movie, Rise of the Lycans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we were watching that one, and after we had the conversation, he's like, what would you rather be? I'm like, oh, I'd rather be a werewolf. He's like, but like, you know, like you can't control yourself when there's a full moon, and he was like asking questions about it. I'm like, yeah, but like, at least I know that I can still be a person and I can still live through life. And like, if I find a person I love, I could die with them. You know what I mean? Like, I just like that I felt like my humanity was a little bit more intact as a werewolf, even if, You know, I turn into maybe a raged werewolf woman on a full moon.
Yeah.
But again, what if this is like a different type of world and I just turn into a dog? Like, wouldn't that be great? I could just be a dog once a month and be totally fine with life.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, I do like the extremely obvious metaphor for like werewolves, like the menstrual cycle.
oh.
I read a very funny, like, it was just some stupid 2-paragraph story that I read on Tumblr where somebody was, like, talking about how people would turn into werewolves, like, once a month, and it always coincided with their menstrual cycle.
Oh, that's kind of funny. I kind of like that concept.
It was great.
But that would be also terrifying if you accidentally have a period that lasts longer than you want it to be. But yeah, so just on top of, like, obviously artwork is chef's kisses.
Yeah.
And reading her biography, I'm super interested, and just like the concept of her and just thinking about what she went through makes me really admire her as a fictional character, regardless of the fact that she's a woman. Though it definitely helped me connect with her a little bit more, because I was like, damn, like I can only imagine how hard that could be.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of women can have power struggles, whether it's because they think they deserve to have this power or they're having a hard time controlling it because of the environment around them. Like, I kind of admire the fact that she owned it and took control of it, and no matter what I think happens, I want to believe that when they have other stuff with her come out for her lore and her story, that she's going to choose to stand her ground on her beliefs that she should protect her people. And I, like, really admire that.
Yeah.
And obviously she's a werewolf, so, like, big bonus for me.
Yes, exactly. So more, like, game mechanics wise, so she's green and red.
Yeah, that's her first card.
Yeah, so green as far as magic is things like animal and nature, and then red is, like, explosions and, like, fighting, right?
Yeah, there's still, like, all of the mana still has animals, for example. Like, in red, you can get a lot of goblins. You do get, like, dinosaurs and stuff, too, and different dragons. But it's very, like, attack-orientated.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have these armies, we're going to attack you. There's a mechanic where you can devour other creatures on your board, and you'll be like, oh, I need to make this creature or this person more powerful, so I'm going to sacrifice these other characters in order to make it more powerful.
Okay.
So red is about definitely, like, more of a feral, innate, like, raw kind of power. And then green is definitely more along the lines of, like, nature, vast environment. It's about groups and communities a little bit more. It has to do with nature environment. So a lot of the times you will get, like, giant beasts. Like, you can get giant worms, you can get mammoths, elephants, also dinosaurs exist, wolves, bears, like, pretty much anything you can think of is in it.
Cool.
But there's, like, a lot of cards that talk about, like, the pack, right? So, like, green is about, like, working together, I would say.
Okay.
So it kind of makes sense that her first card is red and green because, you know, she's a part of a pack. But it also makes sense how there's red in it because, you know, she can be feral and there can be rage and she can go attack first. Like, if you look at a lot of werewolf cards, they are either green or red or both.
Okay, cool.
So they mix and merge well together.
Yeah, neat.
On her first card, there's actually an ability she has where it costs, like, nothing, which is a bonus, but she can put a wolf creature token onto the battlefield. But then by doing so, it transforms her into a werewolf. Like, that's how you transform her in the card.
Okay.
But her strongest ability is it costs 6 planeswalker points. So, like, every time you use an ability that says +1 or +2, you're adding points to your planeswalker.
Okay.
And some cards are 0, so they cost nothing, which is great, but then you don't get to buff up your planeswalker. And normally the strongest ability is like negative 4 or higher, and Arlinn's is -6.
Oh, wow.
And if you use it, you get an emblem. So an emblem is like a permanent card that you have on the field, and it allows creatures that you control to have haste, which means that they can attack immediately as soon as they're summoned.
Oh, cool.
Normally you can't have that because creatures or characters have summoning sickness, so they can't.
Yeah.
You know, you suddenly pop them into a plane and they're like for one round, they just don't want to do anything. So if you give them haste, they're fine and they can attack. And it also gives them a tapping ability. So tapping meaning you just turn the card sideways. And it says that this creature deals damage equal to its power to a target creature or player. So like I could just automatically tap a creature if its power is 10.
Yeah.
I could attack the player or I could attack a card and it automatically happens.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a really cool, powerful ability that she would give every character on the field.
Yeah.
Every creature. And I've never gotten to fucking use it. Because every time I get there, it's either I win the game and I can't use it because someone's just like, oh, like, good game. Like, they're done.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often. Or I'm getting up to the points and then someone attacks Arlinn with enough damage that they kill her.
Oh.
And I'm just like, no!
No.
So I've never actually gotten to utilize that fucking emblem. But one day it's going to be so sweet when I do. I'm going to feel so good about it.
Nice.
And then her other card is just a green card. Voice of the Pack. To explain that cool one, so she's a legendary planeswalker in this one, which is dope. Love my girl. She has only 2 abilities. One she doesn't get any bonuses for, which really sucks because she only has a power of 7. By each creature you control that's a werewolf or wolf creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 bonus. And her -2 abilities, I can create wolf creature tokens. So technically I could only do it 3 times.
Yeah.
Because I can't add anything to her power level. But anyway, she's a fucking babe and I love her so damn much.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's why I love Arlinn Kord. Alison, before we end off the show, what are you excited about right now?
So, I'm really excited. It's another album. I think I already talked about the new Dua Lipa album.
Yes, you talked to that. Yep.
But lately, I have been listening nonstop to the Plastic Hearts album by Miley Cyrus that she just released.
Oh.
It has, like... There's a lot of different inspirations in the music, which I really enjoy. Like, there's still, like, the core of pop there, but there's a lot of old school rock and, like, a little bit of punk and grunge, and there's some synth. And on a few of the songs, she has guests, so she actually has Dua Lipa as a feature on one of the tracks.
Oh!
And she has Joan Jett as a feature. And she has Billy Idol as a feature on a different one. And I'm just like, oh.
Well, hot dang.
So it's such a fun album, and I wasn't a huge fan of her last couple albums. Like, she has some good songs and stuff. But Miley Cyrus is one of those people that I feel really bad because at one point in my life, like looking back, there was a time when I was really receptive to that whole like hate culture that was surrounding so many like female artists at the times. It was specifically in regards to like Kristen Stewart and Miley Cyrus. They got it really bad, and like there was a lot of like judgment on the way that they were acting on all these things, and then I fell victim to that sort of mob mentality kind of thing. And now that I've started looking back on that and kind of doing some sort of self-reflection and kind of even like self-policing, kind of questioning why it is that I reacted that way to this person or this news or whatever. It's like, these are women who are just trying to live their lives in like an extremely hard industry, especially for women, because they are put under such a microscope, and every single one of their actions is judged, and in many ways it is judged way harsher than a man's similar actions would be. And I've just like gained a whole new respect for people like Miley Cyrus and Kristen Stewart, and even people like Demi Lovato and Lindsay Lohan, like these women who have been just run through the meat grinder that is the entertainment industry, and they're trying their best to like build up their lives again after being treated so badly by something where they just wanted to essentially create art and music and act and just kind of do their own thing, and they were never really allowed to. And so I love her new look, her weird kind of mullet that she has going on. It really works. I love the album. There's a couple like really good songs on there where you can tell that she's really kind of reflecting on her own sort of things that she's gone through and the battles that she's had to fight through, and it's a really good album. I would suggest people check it out.
Yeah. I haven't listened to it, I'll be honest, not because it's not like... So I use Spotify a lot. Yeah. And Spotify will always suggest things to me that are similar to what I've listened to, and I just haven't recently listened to any old Miley Cyrus songs. Yeah. So, like, I've seen it pop up as, like, new album and stuff, but I just haven't clicked it because I'm vibing with other music right now. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's what I'm super excited about because... Nice! Yeah, just getting a chance to go back and enjoy things that... So many things that are directed at women are called stupid because they're targeted towards women. Things like boy bands and anything that's supposed to be that girls like is like, you're not allowed to like it. You have to hate yourself for liking it. And so now I'm just like, fuck it. I'm gonna go listen to Miley Cyrus, and like, you go, girl. If you want to wear no clothes, you do it. Feel confident. Yeah. In yourself.
Yeah, you do you. As long as it's making you happy and you're doing it for yourself, then...
It's not harming people.
Yeah, like, be you. And I like that she's embracing herself again, and it's really showing, and it's good. She's talented, and I enjoy it. Nice. Yeah. Before I do our final credits... Oh. So we talked about it a couple times, about... asking our listeners to leave reviews, and so I'm going to read one of the reviews that we got on iTunes. This one is titled Chuckle Ladies, and it goes like this. I found a new comic book series to read thanks to this podcast, and I also found a new podcast to listen to because of their ending bit. Much appreciated for those two things. Besides that, I really enjoy Alison's A Her episode and Fonda's bonus episode with her partner to be my favorite. I look forward to more. And then, like, 3 exclamation points. Aww. And that's super nice. So thank you.
Thank you. And who posted it?
So that was posted by M. Sibley.
Aw, thank you, M. Sibley. Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you for writing the review. It makes us happy. Yeah. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at wenchbenchpod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at werewolf. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my God. I'm really feeling it today.
And this is Alison.